Good afternoon. Welcome to a frigid Ohio. It is Tuesday, January 21st, 2022, 2025. My God, what year am I in? Obviously, I was up really late watching the Buckeyes winning a national championship. So just an awesome day. I am running on a little bit of less sleep. And then I think it's like -2 degrees outside right now, too. So Greg Kirchner joining from Columbus. We were kind of texting throughout the game last night in a couple separate chat groups. So we are national champions once again, Greg. So how's it going down there in Columbus?
It's going pretty great. It's not quite as frigid, but still very frigid. But it might as well be 85 and sunny today, as far as how I'm feeling. So I'm on my second big cup of coffee, and there's a level of satisfaction and just joy that it's hard to put into words when you win a championship like this. It's rare, and you just right now and I'm sure you're probably the same way. I'm just like basking in the glory right now of last night and all the accomplishments that kind of led up to that. So I feel absolutely tremendous.
Yeah, definitely. Was there, like I said, we were texting throughout the game, but was there a point in that game, whether it be after that, maybe that first Notre Dame drive or, later when they, were driving down the field to cut it to maybe one score, was there a point where you were kind of a little nervous in that game, or did you feel pretty confident throughout?
I mean, obviously that first drive was not ideal. It was a very frustrating drive because it just felt like it was 3rd and 3, 3rd and 2, 4th and 1 every time we, it was, I don't want to say it was fluky, but it may have been a little bit fluky. I mean, it was and it took almost 10 minutes off the clock. So that drive, obviously not ideal. I think we texted back and forth a little bit. I still felt pretty good that if we didn't panic, you're down 7-0. You don't like that. Sure. Clearly. They chewed up almost the whole first quarter. But if you don't panic, stick to your game plan, which I kind of knew we would. We needed to get that next score. So I never really felt like too, Notre Dame had my attention, but I never felt too nervous about it.
Yeah.
When they cut it to one score and then we're sitting there at 3rd and 11 thinking they're going to get this ball back potentially with an opportunity to go down and possibly tie the game. Again, had my attention, still was confident, but it was like, okay, this is a situation I didn't think we would be in when we were up 31-7 in the middle of the third quarter. So to answer your long-winded answer your question, never really felt like we were going to lose the game, but certainly had moments where it was like, this is, these are important times coming up here, and we better step up, and we did.
Yeah, and what a run too. I mean, I'll put up the bracket here, but just going through this 12-team bracket, and first of all, Ohio State and Notre Dame by the BCS system, which only, paired the 1 and 2 team together. And even by the old system of, the 4 team, these two teams would not have been in this game. So, just the fact that this 12-team playoff has benefited both Ohio State and Notre Dame is, in my opinion, a great thing for college football. Obviously, we're a little bit biased if we're if I'm Texas or if I'm Georgia, I'm like, well, shit, I would have had a better shot going, against just the 4 teams. But it is what it is. Ohio State had a lot to overcome. If you look at that bracket, in my opinion, definitely the hardest path to take. And I think it just proves beyond any sort of reasonable doubt that run right there, 42-17 over Texas, over Tennessee, who an SEC team. I know they were seeded 9th, but they were ranked number 7 coming into the playoffs. Then you go to number 1 Oregon. You travel out West Coast. You go to Texas, and beat them in their backyard in the Cotton Bowl, 28-14, and then obviously culminating in Atlanta, kind of going back to that 2022 game against Georgia where we kind of exercised those demons in that stadium as well. So 34-23 to, cap off a national title run. What's your, just, I guess, long answer, short, or long question, long. What's your thoughts of that the new playoff system, and then the run Ohio State just went on?
Yeah, truly an incredible run. You summarized it really well. And, the playoff system, it's we've moved into like an NFL type model now, right? Where it's like the hottest team at the end of the season is the one that's going to come out on top, but you got to win at least 3, sometimes 4 games to do so. And they're really tough. I mean, you can argue, whether it's, we've talked about it, whether it's like in the old BCS model where essentially every game was a playoff game, but you also weren't playing top 5, top 10 teams every game either, whether that was harder or whether it's harder now to beat, 3 or 4 of the best teams in the country in succession. I think they're both hard. And I think I like it. It's fun. It brings more teams into it. There was obviously always something cool about like you had to be perfect in the regular season, but that's not really realistic. There's no other sport that's like that, where it's like you have to win every game to win a championship. No, I mean, this model now is the team that is the best at the end of the season when it counts is the winner. And clearly it worked to our benefit this year, but I like it. And it'll make for really, really fun, really fun playoffs in the future. And Justin, I don't know if you saw this, but just quickly, so they came, the final the AP rankings came out today.
Yeah.
Ohio State 1, obviously, Notre Dame 2, Oregon 3, beat them. Texas 4, beat them. Penn State 5, beat them. Then you had Georgia at 6, Arizona State 7, Boise at 8. I'm not sure about the 7 and 8. Then you have Tennessee 9, Indiana 10.
Wow.
So Ohio State in this season beat 6 out of the top 10 teams in the AP.
Well, and
no one has ever done that before.
Ohio State too. So 6 of the top 9, even then too.
6, exactly. That's yeah. I mean, including all of the other top 5 teams. It's clearly that never would have happened in an old format. You wouldn't have had those opportunities, but that is like, that is, as of right now, 1 year into this thing, it's unmatched in terms of a team beating teams of that caliber in a season. And say what you want about the Michigan game, say what you want about whether they would have been here under old models or whatever. There is no doubt left on the field with the teams that Ohio State was able to beat.
Absolutely. And I'm just going to get into it. Like, I obviously, you obviously are, we're Ohio State fans, we're alumni. We've done a ton of shows, like our favorite games, our favorite moments. We've talked to, Craig Krenzel last week about, matchups and what his thoughts were. So we're very connected to this team and this university and this football program. But when that stuff all culminates and you're in, this team is expected to win every game, whether you're a favorite or not, you're expected to win. I was obviously extremely happy for the players, but I got a little bit choked up and I got some chills when I saw Ryan Day finally hoist that trophy, talk to the guys in the locker room, what it meant to him and what it means for his legacy. Because we're talking less than 2 months ago, people wanted, I don't know, I can't put a percentage on it, but a lot of people that are Ohio State fans wanted Ryan Day gone, out the door. And now his legacy at Ohio State, by the way, guess how many titles Urban Meyer won as Ohio State coach? He won 1. Jim Tressel won 1. So it's like he's equal with them right now in terms of national titles. And, he's got a damn good thing going. And I understand The Michigan chalk is not going to go away anytime soon, but he is doing what it needs to be done right now to get this team to the ultimate goal. So your thoughts on that?
Everything you said is dead on. Like these guys, I know we tend to look at these players, these coaches. I mean, we talk about the expectations here. These guys are human beings. These guys, and Craig last week really, he said a lot of things that resonated really well. One of the things was just like nobody expects more out of themselves than the players in that locker room and the coaches in that locker room. We have played sports. I mean, we've played sports at various levels. We've coached sports at various levels. Now I have kids in sports at various levels. And the one thing that you have in common with levels of competition is that the other guy is trying to kick your ass just as much as you're trying to kick theirs. And it's hard. This is hard. These guys are human beings. Like, this is not easy. So like, as much as we were frustrated after that Michigan game, and there was varying levels of frustration, and I'm not going to sit here and say that I was like, oh, I love Ryan Day. I mean, I felt for Ryan Day, but it was like, hey, the results are what they are, and this is a really tough situation, and maybe we have to look somewhere else going forward.
Yeah.
But never did I not feel for these guys, and never did I doubt the desire and the work and the effort that goes into playing for this team and putting yourself out there and competing on that stage. So for that to culminate in this redemption story after this Michigan game is so unbelievable. And there's just a sense of pride to be a Buckeye, but there's like also just, you're so happy for these players and these coaches who give their livelihoods, and they're well compensated for doing so, but they put it all out there, for themselves, for their families, for this university, for this fan base, to see it all come to fruition. It's like, it gives me chills, like thinking and talking about it right now.
So I put together a graphic, and I just want to put this up here because I have always been a Ryan Day supporter, I think, to a fault, where I'd get a little negative feedback on that, and I think a lot of people, I heard it during the broadcast last night, Kirby Smart won his national title in his 6th year. This is Ryan Day's 6th year, and Ryan Day, by the way, has a superior record to what Kirby Smart did at Georgia. Urban Meyer, for all the great things he did and put in place, he would drop a game to Purdue every now and then, or Iowa, an unranked Iowa team, stuff like that. Ryan Day just doesn't do that. But I went through and just put a little graphic together, and I'm not going to go through the whole thing, but this is Ryan Day's resume. So he is 70-10. So he wins 7 out of every 8 games. He is the best, and I didn't even update the win percentage. I think it's more like 88.5%, but it is the best in college football. And he is like 3rd in college football history. And to go back, I think it's like, guys whose names you can't even pronounce because they were born in like the 1800s and they were coaching in the early 1900s. So it's like what Ryan Day is doing is just unbelievable. And you take a look at this run, like you had mentioned, at Penn State, number 3 at the time. You beat Indiana at home. You knock off number 6 ranked Tennessee. I know they were, the 9th seed, but they were number 6 at the time. Number 1 Oregon, you redeem that loss. Texas in their backyard. And you also went to a place last year that, frankly, you stunk it up at, and then you beat them. And then Notre Dame in the championship. And then, he is now one of only 3 active head coaches with a national championship. And that list is Kirby Smart, it's Dabo Swinney, and now it's Ryan Day. Those are the only 3. No other active college football head coaches have a natty, and that is to his credit what he has built. And he can build upon what Jim Tressel laid the foundation. Urban Meyer obviously took that to a new level with recruiting, and now Ryan Day has, I think, even taken that up a notch as well. Obviously, we got to take care of the Michigan monkey on our back, but but all that today feels irrelevant. I hate to use the word irrelevant because there's going to be people out there that's the only game that means something to them. But to win a national title for what Ryan Day has gone through, and like you used the word redemption, to me that's who I was most happy for last night. But yeah, so I don't know. I'm rambling, but
no, I totally agree. I mean, that's a Kenny Atkinson like winning percentage he's throwing up there. But no, it's unbelievable when you lay it out that way. And we're always playing big games. We're always on big stages. These playoff losses, some of them were, it's like, when you're at Ohio State, you're going to play big games. You're going to put yourself out there. You're going to lose some. You're going to win some. And yeah, the 1-4 against Michigan is a black mark on his record. I mean, there's so much that's put on that game. I'm confident that will get cleaned up. Sometimes you just got to get that monkey off your back.
Yep.
It becomes, we put so much on it. There's always so much on that game. And it was interesting, like hearing some of the post game on ESPN last night, Van Pelt and some of the guys talking about it. Again, they're not from Ohio State, so they don't really quite understand the meaning of the Michigan game, but they made some points that were valid about when you put a game on the and I hate, and as a Buckeye, I cringe to say this, but when you put a game on a pedestal so much, it can have a negative impact on that game. So I'm not saying like make the Michigan game less important by any stretch, but it clearly, our play this year was evident that we were just putting so much into that game that we played it tight. So maybe we can maybe the way to spin this positively is you can take what we did in this run, which it felt like we were kind of like, hey, we're playing with house money at this point. Yep. We're going to let it rip. Well, let's start doing that against Michigan too. And we'll get that cleaned up. And I think, again, there's just there is a bit of a sense of relief that, we have a national championship now, for Ryan Day, whether he's going to admit it or not, his job is secure. So you can kind of go out there and let it fly. But he also said in his presser today, they kind of asked him a similar question, like, how does it feel now to be a national champion and, and kind of riding high right now and, almost implying that like you have some more rope with the fan base and everything. And his response was something along the lines of like, well, wait till we lose the first game next year. And, and it's a fair point. It's like, it's always kind of the next game is the most important game, but clearly he can take a breath right now and we can all take a breath with him.
Yeah. Yeah. This, just having that added to your resume buys a little bit of, tolerance from maybe some intolerable fans, from maybe that, what was the word Herb Street used? The 20%, the crazy 20%, but we all know those people, and like, we might be friends with some of them, and we might not be, but it is what it is. Fans are going to do their fan stuff, and we're fans, but I think we see things maybe a little bit more realistically. And I've seen the quotes out there. It's mostly like Michigan fans posting this stuff, but it's like Woody said that if you don't meet Michigan, then Woody fucking coached 50 years ago, like, or maybe even 60, 70, like things were different. They played 10, 11 games at most during the season. And like that was the national championship half the time. And now in a different world, it's like, we want to win that game. And like you said, maybe we want to win that game almost too much that it like affects our psyche. So I'll just leave that.
I mean, like I said, it's like the NFL model. Like, if the Eagles win the Super Bowl this year, they're not going to be, not, I know it didn't happen, but they're not going to be like, yeah, but we didn't beat the Cowboys.
Right.
Like, who cares? Right. I don't, it's just, it's a mindset change that we all have, as we've known for years. It was beat Michigan, win the Big Ten, win the national championship. Now it's kind of like beat Michigan, definitely make the playoff, win the national championship, conference. Okay. Like maybe, fine, but it's a mindset change. And just like life, just like society, sometimes we have to get away from the ideas that are antiquated.
Yeah. Well, and truthfully, if you think about it, that Rose Bowl was maybe a redemption of the real Big Ten championship too. So, you took care of business there. And honestly, people can say what they want, but they did on the field what mattered, for this college football committee. And when they ranked them, they seeded them, they gave them the toughest path. And you know what? They earned every one of those 4 wins. And that is, that cannot be disputed. The path they took and all the wins over such great teams. And like you said too, it's like, when when they bring the 2000, let's just say 2014 team back, I think they did that this year actually at the Nebraska game. They didn't announce, hey, this team beat Michigan. No, they were the national champions. That's what mattered the most at the end of the day. And, when they bring this 2024 team back in 2034 for that, it just sounds weird, but like in 10 years from now, they're not going to say, oh, but they lost to Michigan. No, they won the national championship. And at the end of the day, that's what matters the most. So maybe we'll just shelve that conversation for for next year. But what a great run. Any other thoughts on, just kind of where we're at with that stuff?
Yeah, I mean, if we want to maybe get into just a little bit on the game, I mean, there is, I do want to, before we end, have a little bit of a Will Howard conversation too.
Yeah.
But, as I guess, as I was trying to think back at the game, and this will be one I'll rewatch, at some point and get, but maybe your thoughts, Justin, too, on just like, one of the plays that I wrote down in this game that I think probably not a lot of people are talking about right now, and it's small. First possession, 3rd and 5, like out route to Jeremiah Smith, gets, yard short of the first down, gets the first down.
Yep.
Leads to a touchdown drive and really gets us cooking. Unsung play. We don't make that play. We go 3 and out. We're down 7-0. We kick it back to them. So it's little plays like that throughout the game. And then obviously we got our rhythm. They won the first 10 minutes and, frankly, they won the last 20, but the middle 30, we
dominated,
31 unanswered. And that was really the story. And we got cooking. And if we switch to Will Howard now, we're all baseball fans. Obviously we love sports. It was like watching a pitcher throwing a perfect game.
Yeah.
In that first half. And he essentially did throw a perfect game. Okay. I know he had 1 incompletion to Travion, but watching him so dialed in and running the ball as well as he did all year. And then you just listen to what he had to say after the game and what it means to be a Buckeye. It's almost like it feels like this guy's been here for 4 years.
Yeah.
And I don't know, on my all-time list of Ohio State football players, there's so many favorite Ohio State football players. Will Howard's on that list somewhere, and he was here for 1 year. He won a national championship. He did it with class, grace, humility, leadership. And there's something special to me about a guy who's not from here, who, went somewhere else for 4 years to come here. He's a Buckeye for life, and you can feel it and you can see it. And he's going to play on Sunday. And it's time that we start talking about that too.
Yeah. He is truly, and I was looking at some stats this morning. He finished number 1 in QBR out of all college quarterbacks, which is unbelievable. His, completion percentage, 73%, threw for 4,010 yards, and he was responsible for 42 touchdowns this season. 42. So, hell of a run. And like you said, he comes in from Kansas State. Everyone last year is talking about, oh, let's go get Cam Ward. Let's go get Riley Leonard, who was his opposing quarterback last night. No, Ohio State, and I think Ryan Day, and maybe I don't know if Chip Kelly was in the fold then, but I think it was Ryan Day who was like, no, this is the guy we want. This is, you're coming off Kyle McCord, and you had that. You weren't quite sure. C.J. Stroud was a leader, not quite as vocal. And then Kyle McCord was, I don't want to be negative towards Kyle McCord, but Will Howard was the leader this team needed. If he makes a mistake, he owns it. He doesn't point fingers. He doesn't blame teammates. He is accountable, and he was the perfect quarterback Ohio State needed. Have that ability to scramble, not going to bust, 60, 70-yard runs, but like you said, get that 3rd and 5, or, do an RPO that maybe, buy some time where you can hit one of your stud receivers, or buy some time in an offensive line that was like, frankly, pieced together late in the season. So I think you said it perfectly. Will Howard is not from here. He's actually from like the Philadelphia area, went to Kansas State, spent 4 years there, had to, battle maybe not being the starter there, and then comes to the best program in the country with maybe one of the best quarterback developers. Do you know the only other team I know that was out to get Will Howard last year?
I don't.
It was Lincoln Riley, and USC wanted him too.
Wow.
So that he chose Ryan Day over Lincoln Riley, and I think he made the right decision. And I think as Buckeye fans, we are grateful he did.
And it was just, and everybody seemed, especially nationally, it was always the focus on, he was always an afterthought. We talked about that last week as well. It was always focused on what he can't do. But it didn't matter to him. It didn't matter to him. I think the only time I ever saw him play with a chip on his shoulder was that Penn State game, because he wanted to go to Penn State. It was just, again, and I think too, it's like, a lot of the noise they don't even hear, but they hear some of it, especially with social media. But Will Howard, I mean, and when, and that was, you mentioned like Ryan Day getting that trophy. There were a couple moments when there were probably 3 moments last night where it started getting dusty in the room.
Yeah.
The trophy being handed to Ryan Day, Will Howard choking up, talking about what it means to be a Buckeye.
Yeah.
And Ibuka, just what that guy has given to this, walking away, the all-time leading Ohio State receiver, receptions, yardage, and him just breaking down on the field. This is a special group of guys.
No doubt. Yeah. And, Jack Sawyer and JT, all those guys coming back for that year to accomplish those goals. And they might have fallen short of a couple of those goals, but they got the ultimate goal. They got, there are a couple hundred players every year. There's like 200 guys that get to play for a national title, and only, half of them get to win it. And they accomplished that goal. And I just, a few things. I might have to push back on the Ibuka thing. I know he is now the receptions. I think he might have finished 30 yards short of.
Maybe he did. We'd have to look that up. You're right. You may be right.
I know though he did pass KJ Hill for all time.
He did.
205 receptions.
That's fair. We'll have to fact check on that one.
Either way, and like the only thing I felt bad for him last night was, I think his last touch as a Buckeye was that fumble. But you know what? The defense redeemed him. Maybe a little luck of the ball hitting the goalpost redeemed him. And then Will Howard, who you just talked about, that 3rd and 11, just absolute dime to this guy. Just drop it in the bucket, let this guy go get it. One-on-one coverage. I mean, look at those freaking numbers. 76 catches, 1,350 yards, 15 touchdowns, over 17 yards a catch for, I mean, we mentioned these guys are all humans, but I mean, I don't know. Jeremiah Smith is built different.
He's built, yeah. And we talked about in our text yesterday. We said, well, maybe there'll be another play that'll be in consideration for the top 10 plays like we covered last week. Well, if there was one from the game, it was 3rd and 11. You know, Notre Dame sold out man coverage on the outside. You know, it's been a while since Smith saw one-on-one straight coverage like that, and it was just, you know, their best against our best. They're coming after Howard. And I just love the 1st and 2nd down play calls sucked on that drive. Mm-hmm. And we made up for it. We said, you know what, we're going for it. We're going for this thing. We don't want to give them the ball back. We're going to our best guy. We're throwing it up for them. And the rest is history. And it was a great culmination to the title. And on the Ibuka point, yeah, unfortunately that his last touch was a fumble, but that was actually Chris Fowler's fault for literally right before the play saying that Ohio State doesn't fumble and doesn't turn the ball over, and it's hard to see it happening. My kids were both sitting next to me, and they kind of rolled their eyes at that, and it was just like literally the play after. So sorry, Emeka, not your fault. Chris Fowler did you dirty there.
And yeah, he's going to do quite well for himself in the NFL. He's going to make up for that. But a legendary Ohio State receiver right up there. And 2 1,000-yard receiving seasons at Ohio State, which him and Marvin Harrison Jr. are the only 2 to do multiple. And there's only like 9 or 10 guys total that have done that, including obviously Jeremiah Smith now.
And did we end up getting both? I know Judkins got did Henderson get to 1,000 as well? Oh, one step ahead, Dan. You got all the graphics teed up today.
I got them ready. So yeah.
when did you do this? Like 3 a.m.
Yeah, I did it. I did it. I was trying to warm up from being outside in -4-degree weather. I'm like, I'm going to sit on my ass for a couple minutes, and I have these. I've just been updating them throughout the season. But yeah, I mean, they combined for 2,076 yards, 24 touchdowns on the ground, and then another 3 touchdowns through the air. So I mean, yeah, they both over. You know, so you had 2 1,000-yard backs. You had 2 1,000-yard receivers, and then obviously Will Howard threw for 4,000 yards this year. So, and I mean, you got another guy coming, Carnell Tate's right there. We haven't even talked about the defense. I know we got to wrap this up in a minute, but you know, just an unbelievable thing. Let me just ask you real quick, because I know you got to sign off here in a minute. Who's your MVP of the offense? I think I know, but who's the MVP of the defense?
Oh man, I'll tell you what, and it's so hard, but I got to go. You got to go with your leader on offense. I think as unbelievable as Jeremiah Smith is in the weapons, Will Howard was the glue that kind of held it all together, and I think it's the intangible leadership. He would be my offensive MVP. Defense, I mean, you know, Howard's counterpart would be Jack Sawyer, but I'm going to go with Caleb Downs as the defensive MVP because, you know, just the sure tackling and how many touchdowns he saved with tackles and just how solid he was on the back end, allowing other, you know, I think the other thing is it allows other guys to go for opportunities, be aggressive, because, you know, you've got this guy back there who is such a sure tackler and gonna make the play. So I'm gonna go with Caleb Downs. So it's interesting that we went with the 2 transfers because this championship is not about the guys who transferred. It's about the guys who are here. But the transfers definitely came in areas where we needed them. But, you know, the reason why this is so tough is because there just were so many. This is a team more than any other that I can remember, probably going back to 2002. This is a team accomplishment from every single person in that room and every single coach.
And I'm going to give you my 2 MVPs. Like I know you got to sign off, so whenever you got to sign off, you can sign off. But my 2 MVPs are Donovan Jackson on the offensive end, because that offensive line, and he's one of those guys. He came back. He was one of the 5 stars, and then Cody Simon, who stuck around. And again, he wore that block O, and you know, so I went a little different route, but I think really any of those 11 guys on defense, you could give the MVP to, and on offense, you know, great stuff. So just proud of this team, And like Jim Tressel said, it's always thank God you were given the chance to be a Buckeye, because I know I feel that. I know you feel that, and so many people out there. So yeah, great job.
Yeah,
And
I would say just enjoy this, because it doesn't. We talked about how this doesn't happen very often, and as you move into different parts of your life, you realize you learn to appreciate these times more.
yeah,
I mean, we put a lot on it. It is a game. We put a lot on this. It means a lot. It means a lot to a lot of people. So everybody in Buckeye Nation, enjoy this satisfaction, and don't take it for granted.
nope.
And we don't have to worry about next year until July, really.
Yep.
So, what a day, what a time to be a Buckeye, what a moment. Congratulations to Coach Day, the players, and we love this place.
Yeah, no, and yeah, and I'm gonna just end it there, because I can't say it any better myself. All the coaches, all the players, all the staff, the recruiting, everything that goes into it, the foundations now for NIL, all that stuff adds up, and it all equaled to a national title this year. So I think that's perfectly said. So for Greg, I'm Justin. I think, well, if we do this right, it might be a little lame, but we can do a quick. I'm going to give the O. Can you throw up an H there?
H.
I.
O. Champions, baby.
So we are national champions, and just like Greg said, enjoy it, because winning is tough. Winning is tough, and these guys did it. Put the stamp on it. Your Ohio State Buckeyes are 2024-2025 national champions. Be proud, and continue to support this great team, coaches, players, all that good stuff. So, Greg, I'll let you go. I'm going to log off here too. But for everybody, thanks for watching, and we appreciate your support as always. And everyone, enjoy your day. And like Greg said too, just enjoy this. Don't worry about next year, nothing like that. Enjoy this moment, and maybe go watch a few highlights. So we will talk to you guys soon. Enjoy your day. Stay warm and safe.
Thank you for listening to this show on Youngstown Studio. This is original Youngstown content. Feel free to share our videos and tell your friends about us. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel and follow us on